What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm Brian Costa.
And I'm John Warren.
And we got a great show for you guys today. We got a lot to talk about. As you can tell, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're actually outside. It's a great night. It's a great night here in central Massachusetts. So wanted to get out, enjoy it. John, how you liking today?
It was pretty rough midday, but it was a low of 74, high of 94.
Yeah.
A little heat wave, but got through it. The boys are getting some sun, as you can see. So yeah, we're definitely on the up, and summer's upon us.
Yeah, I definitely got some sun throughout the past couple days. I went golfing this weekend. I still suck, so trying to figure that out very, very slowly. I know the people I'm golfing with, they're like my dad and everyone else. They're trying to tell me like, Brian, take it easy. It's no big deal. But I'm just like, try not to shank everything into the woods. So I think that's something I'm trying to.
I'm a big results now guy. So,
yeah, a little
bit. I completely understand that. But
yeah, that's how I'm feeling. I'm
really, really good though that Red Sox swept. So
yeah, Red Sox sweep the Yanks. Pretty solid series. We're watching a little bit of that last night. So we had a very generous strike three call there, foot outside the strike zone. I'll say that.
Hey man, everyone could have got thrown out for that one, but Sox still swept. That's all that matters.
No, I mean I'm happy about it.
Bruins in 7.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna have to be Bruins in 7, man. We were gonna talk about that to lead off the show. I mean, the Bruins right now, they're down big to the Islanders right now. I think it's what 5-2.
5-2 last time I checked.
Yeah, it's 5-2. Rask got pulled. It's not looking great. So we're gonna have to probably do this thing in 7, unfortunately, if we want to pull it out, which means we're gonna have to go back into New York and win it. So
it's not impossible, but it'd definitely be a uphill battle now.
Yeah, this should have been a game we had to win, and maybe pulling Rask and putting the kid Swayman in. Maybe this is kind of the lightning rod that they need to say, like, hey guys, let's get on our A game. Let's do this thing, and let's actually push for it.
Yeah, I agree definitely because they decided to pull him just to start it because Rask gave up 4 goals, but a couple high sticking call was a little. I could have gone both ways. I would say that.
Yeah.
Trying to be fair to the refs and the New York Islander fans watching.
Yeah.
Shout out Zach Cochran. I don't know if he is, but huge New York guy.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's been a definitely interesting series. The Islanders are definitely bigger, and they're can definitely hit, and they're not dumb, like Washington. So
yeah, no.
Washington is, don't get me wrong, incredibly gifted team, but it's just going to be very interesting to see how they're going because New York is still a very strong team and very well coached.
Absolutely.
Their goalie is playing an incredible series right now.
Yeah, he is playing really well for them. When we've been able to snag those two wins, especially the overtime with Marshy, that was a snipe of a goal for him. And being any goal we're able to get on this guy right now seems to be kind of a blessing for us. So we gotta find the answer. We gotta find it now because this is definitely putting our season in jeopardy.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to see some playoff hockey with the Bruins going down the line. So come on, Bees, get it together.
Exactly. I mean, you've seen out of some guys. You just showed me a goal by Pasternak that he had tonight. Bobby Orr-esque, I think, is the appropriate way to say it. It was very nice looking.
Yeah, it was very, very nice. And I mean, you can't really do anything about it. We're losing. That's kind of how I look at it. Like, no matter how much, like, you don't win at the end of the game, really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely was good to look at though in the moment.
Yeah, no, the only stat that matters is that W. You gotta, and frankly, the Bruins got to turn it on. So, whatever it takes, man, let's see it happen. But, obviously the big thing that we wanted to get into to start the show, if I had another show during the week, I probably would have hyped this up during the show. Maybe would have gotten one of my fighting analysts on the show, but it is now come and gone. And we've now seen the epic showdown, I'd have to say, between Logan Paul, the YouTuber, and Floyd Money Mayweather. I still can't believe that this happened.
I mean, the money was there.
Yeah.
You hear it in his name. He was talking about it beforehand. He's doing exhibitions where he's making 30 million. Like he was saying, just to put on his shorts for it, he made 30 million.
Yeah. I mean, I think he actually characterized this as legalized robbery. And, he did. And some people were saying, would you ever come back to boxing full time? And he just said, man, if I'm doing this and I'm making this for exhibitions, why the hell would I go back to boxing full time?
I don't blame him. He's 40 years old.
Yeah.
He's old.
Like, there's no reason that he should want to go do another 15-round prize fight if he's doing this and he's doing great. Like, I mean, he's 44 years old. I mean, able to come out and perform the way he did against Logan Paul.
He made
Now,
100 million or something.
yeah,
He made a ridiculous amount of money. He
it,
made more money than Michael Jordan in 15 years on the what was it on the Bulls.
really,
Yeah, they were saying in the last 15 years of his NBA career, he made more than Michael Jordan
that's
in
insane.
that one fight.
That's ridiculous.
Something like that. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was an absolutely absurd fight. Now, I mean, I was watching it, and I'll give all the credit in the world for Logan Paul for getting in the ring with him. I mean, he's 44 and he is taller than him, but to get in the ring with the best defensive boxer of all time, that does take some guts. So I will give him some credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, he did get knocked out, but like
Floyd held him up.
Floyd held him up because Floyd wanted the bag, and I don't blame him. I would have too, but definitely I mean, it was disappointing, but at the same time also very impressive to watch from both sides because you look at Floyd and he's old and he's still looking pretty good and he still looks like, a little youthful and he got like a little kick. And then there's Logan Paul who God knows I like the guy was a wrestler in high school, but
Yeah.
like
No, so
he had the reach and he was staying in there and he was hanging in there with arguably the greatest boxer of all time.
Yeah, at least
aside from Muhammad Ali,
Ali, Tyson, like guys like that. But Floyd's like right up
for his weight class, arguably the best ever.
I mean, and of this generation, it's unquestionable.
Yeah,
but I mean,
yeah,
exactly. You can't teach that. It's insane what Floyd
greatest defensive boxer too, and he landed some hits. He landed a couple of body hits and everything, and he hung in. So I mean,
all
credit to him.
Yeah, I was watching the fight. Unfortunately, I was hearing for some people that were illegally streaming the fight. It appears that all the illegal streaming sites got shut down because so many people were sharing the links. So good RIP to Streamy.live, RIP to Crack Streams, RIP to all those streams because apparently too many 13-year-olds and too many casuals were trying to catch a Logan Paul fighting. And because of it, I think we just lost a bunch of streaming services. Now, I wasn't streaming anything illegally because, the streams are down, so I couldn't do anything. But RIP to those.
Neither one we would before,
Yeah, no,
exactly. Good people around here.
Exactly. RIP to those who ended up losing that.
Yeah, moment of silence real quick. All right, let's continue.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're outside, so there are animals that are going to bug us. So no, I mean, listen, I ended up just having to, check out the fight and, I ended up just seeing stuff go down. And, early on, it looked like Logan was actually hammering Floyd pretty well. He actually kind of came
in very aggressive. Yeah.
Well, he knew that's what was going to happen. And I think people going into the fight, they expected two things to happen. They expected two things, but they knew a third thing could happen. And it was either Logan's going to come in, he's going to go swinging for the fences, and he's going to knock Floyd out in the first or second round, or he's going to do that. He's going to miss and not be able to do it. And Floyd is going to take advantage of that and just sock him, which he did at one point, but he did end up holding him up. But what it turned into, which is the third result, was, Logan came out doing what he was doing, and Floyd, kind of, stayed true to himself. He decided to, walk him down, kind of, tire him out in his own right. And, Floyd, boxed to his own game. He didn't go for the big swing and miss because he hasn't knocked a guy out cleanly since 2011. I know he knocked out McGregor versus Teak on a technicality in 2018, but he hasn't knocked a guy out in a decade. So he realized that, and he said, okay, he said, all right, I'm going to go out here. I'm going to just try to put on a show. He did it, and he still, boxed to his game. Credit to him for that. And, all in all, I think it was a win for the sport. I enjoyed watching it. Now, some people are saying, like, well, this possibly takes away from people spending money on other big fighters like Canelo Alvarez, like a Tyson Fury versus I believe it was Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
And or like a Fury Wilder 3. They think that like takes away from possible money for it. I mean, listen, I there was a good argument I think that Max Kellerman brought up with this, and I'm not the biggest Max Kellerman guy because of how he used to bash Brady, but I will say this: I think he said, like, the majority of people watching this fight were casuals. I think majority maybe like fans of Logan Paul. Floyd Mayweather brought some good boxing fans as well, but I think a good amount of people that bought this fight package were doing it for Logan Paul and for the allure of that. I don't think they were true boxing fans that really bought it.
I agree.
So I think the true boxing fans, when those fighters do go, it's going to be like, okay, let's do this. And what I think it also opens up the opportunity to do is those casuals that brought in, it makes them say like, all right, Logan Paul and Jake Paul can go do this.
Right.
What can Canelo Alvarez do? What can Anthony Joshua do? What can Tyson Fury do? And it makes them kind of like, explore things more. I think maybe now they'll go and look at, Manny Pacquiao's past. Maybe they'll go and look at old Mike Tyson clips and, get into boxing through that. So if it's able to maybe reach another market, I give it credit for that. Now, I definitely give a lot more credit to Logan for getting in the ring with Floyd Mayweather than where I do to Jake Paul for going in and fighting Ben Askren, who looks like an
Yeah.
old milkman at this point. And
Yeah. I mean, Floyd, kind of took it seriously. He looked in great shape. I
yeah,
mean, he always is. Like, he keeps himself physically fit, and he does. But he had a great point. He's like, if you're not boxing for the fun, what is it? He's like, I got kids to feed.
yeah,
He's like, people think that's a joke, but like, it's not. He's like, it's very true. And I also agree with the statement about possibly just bringing in fans to boxing, because I think, like, regardless of the sport, like, both the Paul brothers have really helped the sport. If
yeah.
I think that's unarguable.
No,
Like,
they.
I think
I mean,
hands down.
some people are saying that it's kind of killing it in a way, and listen, I could understand if if Logan had gone in there and he had flush knocked out Floyd, I think that probably would have been bad for the sport of boxing because
Yeah, I think it
it
would
would
have
have been
been.
like the greatest fighter of all time. No guy was able to take him out, but this YouTuber trains for like 3 years and is able to do it. And obviously he's 44, and obviously there's a major weight difference, but it would have been a very bad look. But I think the allure of it and what it does is interesting for the sport of boxing. And while I want to see Jake Paul, who I think is the better fighter of them, I think that that would have probably been a more interesting fight to see because I think Logan. I'll give him credit. He's better than I thought he was. I saw him in the KSI fight where he was fighting him KSI 2, where it was actually a legit match, and he looked solid. But when you look at Jake is a mauler, and he goes for the big knockout punch. I mean,
Jake, it
he's
kind of takes it more seriously. I feel like more than Logan too.
yeah. I mean, Logan hasn't fought, I don't think, in like 2.5 years. Like Logan, I feel like is more of a casual with it, where he'll if it's presented to him, he'll train, he'll go for it. But I feel like Jake is actually training for it and like actually trying to get into it. And what, regardless of the guys he's fighting, it seems like he's the actual guy that's really trying to take it seriously as an athlete perspective.
Yeah, I agree. And then, yeah, Jake just got signed to a fight that's kind of legit now.
Yeah, he got signed to fight Tyron Woodley, former UFC 5-time world champion.
Tyron Woodley is, he's, I think, on a losing streak right now.
Yeah, so he's lost his last 4 fights. He's never boxed before, but and I think he's about 39 years old at this point. But to his own right, uh, you know, I have kind of my complaints, with the way that Jake Paul maybe has gotten into the boxing game. He hasn't fought an official boxer yet, but I guess for the way he's doing things, he's incrementally, I guess, worked himself up because he went from fighting a guy, Anisan Gibb, who was another YouTuber, and frankly, he had one of the worst fighting styles I've ever seen as a boxer. He was doing this weird crouching stance where he was like trying to throw weird jabs, and it was the ugliest stance I've ever seen for a boxer. And then he went on to fight.
We've seen bad ones, folks.
Yeah, and then he went on to fight Nate Robinson. Made clowned him because Nate Robinson kind of went into it like a street fight and was swinging away, and looked awful in that fight. And then he went to go fight Ben Askren. And for anyone who knows anything about UFC, Ben Askren is like the last guy you want in a striking fight. He is a strictly wrestling guy. He's known for saying like, I don't need to know how to strike because I can beat guys in wrestling. And Jake Paul went out and he got him knowing that about him. So I think that this is a step up because Woodley is known for striking a little bit more. Obviously, he's more mixed martial arts and is more used to using his whole body, but he is a more legit striker. Now, after this, you have to get into the boxing game. I think at least with an amateur, at least with some sort of a novice that's been in it for 3 years. I want to see what this guy can do against actual competition. Because guess what, he can go and beat up guys all day, and like guess what, it'll make some money. But until you actually get in the ring, man, and you test it against a real guy, like there's always gonna be that question, kind of sitting above your head.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And, yeah, bringing it back to the point, like, the Paul brothers have really been the face of, well, boxing for a little bit now, like in
Yeah.
the past year. So,
And I don't think too many people are going to be fond of that to say, but
I
there's
think it's definitely brought like attention. I honestly think you could see it in a good light, like it's
I
glass
think
half
there's
full.
definitely a good light to it, but I think it also shines a bad light on the promoters in boxing because
I agree with
because
that.
John, I was talking to you about it before the show, and I've been hearing all about it on ESPN and all those guys. They've said the promoters in boxing have screwed the fans out of so many great fights. Because you think of Pacquiao Mayweather, that was a great fight for people to watch. That fight technically should have happened 10 years prior,
Yeah,
but the promoters couldn't sort over money, and it became a whole issue in that right.
yeah, I agree. And then definitely, yeah, it just didn't happen. And then now, like even like the whole thing with Dana White and Jake betting on himself, saying like, "Hey, you know what? Like, I'll double your carriage." To the guy, he said, "If you beat me, I'll double your carriage. If you lose, you donate it to a charity of my choice." And I mean, just upping the stakes and really betting on yourself. I think it's bringing back a little bit, but like at the same time, like they both don't really know what they're doing, so it's really uncharted waters for both of them. While these other guys are
Definitely.
experienced, and I mean, it brings a little shame to the sport. The way they're talking about it, going about each other's wives and everything else, and all that stuff. It's just attacking them personally. I mean, you don't really touch family,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like some of these guys aren't really taking them seriously, and they're really only chasing the money because of we talked about it, the promoters of the fight. So
Yeah, I mean, family is kind of the one area that you kind of stick away from because it's just never going to do you well. But I think the final thing that we wanted to talk about in boxing news of the night, also also was part of the undercard for the Logan Paul Mayweather fight.
Ocho,
We got to see Chad Ochocinco put on the gloves, and
he got knocked out.
yeah, he got. I mean, he got up, he finished all 4 rounds, but man, Chad Ochocinco took one hard, and yeah, he
Hey
went
man,
down.
he was very respectful about it, and he knew going in. He even said he's like, if I can last 4 rounds with this guy, he's like, I won in
Yeah,
his eyes. So I mean, guy trained for 3 months, had no experience, went in there, gave it his all, got knocked out a little bit, gave up McDonald's. Like that's
yeah,
Chad giving up McDonald's.
which is a
Walked
big
away
thing
with a
for him.
million. I mean, again, going right to that promoting.
Yeah, he was talking about not being able to eat McDonald's, and he said that was like a struggle for him because he had to lose 20 pounds for this fight. He actually had to get in like maybe not football shape, but at least good enough shape again.
He's always been a small guy too. He's
Yeah,
always very like thin.
yeah. So I mean, like it's not like he did it like a Jamarcus Russell and put on
No,
so many pounds. Like it was like a 20 pound like thing. It's like okay, like you're tired, you're chilling out. There's no need for him to be working out like that. So, but when it came to that, he said, all right, I got to get down to this weight class, and like he was talking to the
all
promoters.
kudos to him,
He
man.
was talking to the reporters, and he ended up going, yeah, I had to give him McDonald's, and they were kind of laughing. He's like, no, this was a struggle for me. Like I
He
was
has
so
it every
pissed.
single day. I follow him on Instagram very closely. Follow the athlete too, their podcast
Yeah, the I
with
am
him and
athlete.
him and Brandon Marshall and a couple others. Really good podcast
Yeah.
actually. But I think Terrell Owens too is on that one.
Yeah, and I mean they got Jake Paul on it one time.
They got Jake Paul on it, but like the thing is that like he really dedicated himself, and he is really still in crazy athletic shape.
Yeah.
Racing like Tyreek Hill, and still like, granted he didn't win, but like he was still running really fast
Yeah.
for his age.
No, I mean he's an incredible athlete. And I mean, one of the more talented receivers that we've
Should
seen.
probably be a Hall of Famer later on
Yeah.
in his career,
Yeah, I mean,
but
he was just an all-time character. I mean, Ocho Cinco is, a crazy just a crazy cat. I think I wish him I hope that he, continues to make I don't think he's gonna do boxing anymore, but he said, maybe he just tries to do something else and he says he's just trying to live life to the fullest right now. So Chad, go for it, man. I wish you the best.
yeah, go for it, 85.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of concludes what we had in boxing news. But what I did want to, and now we're going to jump over to what originally was going to be the topic of the show had we done it before the fight. I'm surprised that I haven't gotten the chance to talk about it on the show yet at this point. But in NBA news, the Boston Celtics after Kyrie calling out the city of Boston, we didn't get to talk about the idiot fan throwing a bottle at him and making the entire city look like a bunch of
It is what it is.
yeah. It was a stupid kid.
People who know Boston know that's come
No,
on.
and the kid was an idiot. And frankly, if you want to ban from TD Garden, ban from TD Garden. I'd have no issues with that because what are you doing? Like, you put the entire city in a bad light. But then you go back to Brooklyn, we end up losing there, and And
What can you really do though? I mean, Tatum played his ass off, and there was no one else around.
yeah, he really
So
did. It was a gentleman's sweep, though. We lost in 5, so it was nothing like really too special for us. But the next day after the game concludes, we get the news that Danny Ainge is retiring from the president of basketball ops, and that Brad Stevens is going to become the new Danny Ainge. Now, I I was pretty shocked at this. I'll let you have your thoughts first, and then I'll go into it.
yeah. So honestly, I can't say that I saw it coming, but I mean, I thought he was going to do this later on in his career, but I think it's the Celtics trying to make a power move and saying he's good, but like he's like we want to keep him, but like we should probably try to move in a new direction as a coach. So I think Brad Stevens is going to make the moves that Danny Ainge struggled to make with securing a big man or a power forward, try to at, bump that up. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good way, and great career, from Danny Ainge, like
Yeah,
as like an exec. I mean, he had his struggles, here and there, just like everyone does, but at the end of the day, he did bring Boston another championship, got us out of the drought. So
yeah. No, I mean, listen, for what Danny Ainge did for the city of Boston, I'm so grateful for what he did for the city. I'm overly excited. I was overly indebted to him as a Celtics fan because of what he managed to do for us. Tried to start another dynasty with the Kyrie trade. Obviously, that fell apart for reasons not really belonging to him. Kyrie just became the person that he became, and that kind of became his own issue. But was able to deliver us the championship in '08, and it was a great run for us there. But I will say this: I actually really like the move of Brad Stevens going to president of basketball
yeah, I
ops.
agree.
I really like it because I think that Brad Stevens is a great basketball mind. But the issue I had with him, and I was kind of like saying, like, what, I don't really like Brad Stevens as the coach of this team because I don't think he gets vocal enough with the players. And I think that I was listening to him. He was mic'd up during the bubble one time, and it went to timeout, and he was with the guys, and he ends up going like, all right, guys, let's go, team. Let's get this thing together. And it just did not sound like like a coach who was like really rallying the guys. Now, I heard about reports like saying that maybe that I guess behind the scenes Brad Stevens was like a bit of a harsher guy, and maybe had some more criticism for the guys. But personally, as a fan, I never saw it. And I was just like, what, we're gonna lose this guy. And I kind of put a lot of blame of maybe players not receiving it on the players. I was like, listen, this guy knows what he's talking about, but unfortunately it wasn't going through. And I'm like, we're gonna lose a pretty solid coach or a pretty solid basketball mind just because the players don't like it. I like this move because
It's like the whole Indiana thing.
no, exactly. I like Brad Stevens going to this role because he doesn't necessarily have to be confronting the guys about all this stuff. He can be working the phone lines and actually be making those moves. And you were saying he can make the trades that Danny Ainge never wanted to make. When Danny Ainge was making a trade, he kind of always had the objective of trying to no matter what be the winner of the trade. Just, and that's a good mindset to have. But when you're trying to get the pieces together and say like, all right, we need a big man. Danny Ainge, I feel like, would always be like, all right, but can we get that extra first? Can we get that extra thing? And I think for a lot of GMs, it was like, no, we're gonna give you this. And it's kind of take it or leave it. And Danny Ainge, maybe had some good offers on the table, and he kind of just left it hanging there because he wanted to get a little more. I think Brad Stevens knows the needs of this team, and I think he's going to execute in getting them.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch his first year, honestly, and I agree. I'm just wondering who's going to be the next Celtics head coach.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions as to where that's going to go. I know as soon as the news broke, everyone was saying Kevin Garnett, baby, let's go.
Wasn't it Sam Castle one of them too? He was an
Yeah,
old player.
yeah, Sam Cassell. I actually really like that as an idea. I think that
He
it,
has experience.
yeah, I mean, as soon as he was done playing, he got into coaching, and I actually really like him as a possible candidate.
Kevin Garnett would be great.
Kevin Garnett would be, I think, great as an assistant. I don't think he has any coaching experience.
Kendrick Perkins.
Perk would be funny as a
That would
head
be
coach.
funny, but that would be terrible, I feel like. Or it could be really good. I don't know. He
I
really fires up the players.
I'd like him as a player mentor. I don't know how his coaching game is, but I'd like him at least in that room with the guys.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely seems like a good guy to have around, and everyone really respects him.
I mean, another guy that I guess is on the list right now is I know Lloyd Pierce is on there. I don't know too much about him. I know he's been with the Atlanta Hawks and has done some stuff with them. But another guy who's on the list right now, who I guess at least will be getting interviews with us, is Jason Kidd, who's with the Lakers right now. He just took himself out of the conversation to be the head coach with the Portland Trailblazers.
I wonder if that's because of the Celtics opening up. You can have a star like Jason Tatum.
Yeah, I mean, it very well
Kudos
could
to
be.
Jason Tatum too. He really kind of turned it on.
Yeah,
It's kind of showing you guys like that, like he's a legit star player. And I feel like even though Jaylen Brown kind of being out and having an off year, you could say, I feel like Jason Tatum has really emerged as the number one,
yeah, no,
undeniably.
he's coming through now, and it's actually looking. I'm actually very happy about that. But I did mention Damian Lillard, kind of being the reason, being one of the guys that was vocal about getting Jason Kidd to the Trailblazers. I know Kidd took himself out of that conversation. Now that could be him not maybe liking Dame that much, but it also could be the fact.
Dame made some comments about him, apparently.
Yeah, but I feel like it also could be like a situation of him saying like, listen, Dame might be out of here, and I'm not really trying to go to a team that I'm not really trying to go to a Portland Trailblazers team without Damian Lillard because frankly,
They
that's just
don't have anyone
that's just a
else.
minor league
CJ
basketball team.
McCollum or
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah, CJ's great, but you take
CJ's not Dame.
yeah, no, he's not Dame, and I feel like you take Dame away from that offense, and I think they just go back to being like just a team that you just steamroll over, and like I feel like they just become an afterthought.
I agree.
So I think, frankly, that's the one thing that I think Jason Kidd is probably saying is like, I don't want to go there. They trade Dame, and I'm stuck as the head coach of this franchise.
Yeah,
Now, if Damian Lillard was made available by trade, if you're the Boston Celtics, how much would you be willing to give up for him?
it's a good question. I mean, do we really need Damian Lillard though?
I mean,
Because Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum, and then we also got Jaylen Brown.
yeah, I like it.
I mean, and I don't know.
Listen, I think that I don't want to necessarily lose Smart, but I think, obviously, I think Smart is the type of player that, if we were to trade him, it would hurt. But I think that Smart is the kind of guy that really only works within a Celtics type system.
I agree. I feel like Smart has to stay. I feel like if anyone, it would be probably Williams.
Williams would probably be a guy you have to deal with. But I honestly don't think that if we were to trade Smart, we'd feel the impact on our team. But I don't think it would come back to bite us if he went to another organization. I think that frankly, what he does defensively, I feel like what he provides as a player is kind of only unique to Boston. I don't know if he'd be able to replicate that in another market
I
necessarily.
agree. He's very, very, very home team type guy.
Yeah, and I'm not saying anything about Marcus Smart being a bad player. I just don't know if outside of in another system, like if he went to, I don't know, like the Grizzlies, would he be a similar guy there? If he went to the Heat, probably would be a similar guy there because of how Jimmy Butler plays. But just other teams, like how would he fit in there? Like would he be able to be a good, like a solid, like the player he is here?
Yeah, I don't know. It would be very difficult, I think, to replicate that. But honestly, I think Dame's staying because Dame's a very loyal player.
Yeah,
But I think if Dame's going to be gone, I think it's going to be because they trade Dame
yeah.
to get value and try to rebuild. But
Mm-hmm.
that is what it is then at that point. But
Yeah, and one of the last things that I wanted to touch on in NBA news was Coach K. He actually just retired from college basketball. Now, I know he's probably done with coaching, but if Boston gave him a call, and frankly, if this had happened a year sooner, I would have been ecstatic. Now,
yeah, I mean,
unfortunately, it's not happening. I know Coach K is probably done, but obviously
been
had a
long.
tremendous career with Duke. But as soon as I
I
saw
know.
as soon as I saw
I'm
him,
kind of sad about that one, Brian. I don't know how we're going to be now.
yeah, I saw him announcing his retirement the same day all this stuff was going down. I was like, wait, is something in the tea leaves? Like, what's going down? Is there like a master plan that I don't know about? Which, that would have been awesome to see. I would have been pumped for that.
Yeah, I mean, that would have definitely made it interesting. But I don't know. I think he's done. I mean, he's
Yeah.
had a really, really, really long and Hall of Fame career.
Yeah. I mean, I did want to get that in. Hats off to him. And another quick thing I did want to touch on in NBA news before we do go on to, I believe, our final topic, our final segment of the night, NFL, was that LeBron actually lost a playoff series in the first round for the first time. So let's go.
I know. Devin Booker playing up, CP3 playing up, DeAndre Ayton, people forgot about him.
Yeah.
Still playing very, very good
Yeah.
basketball. And yeah, they had a really, really solid series. And I mean, Suns also match up extremely well against the Lakers, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, the Lakers, AD was like in and out every single game. So
Mhm.
I just didn't think it was happening. And people can say LeBron's washed or whatever. LeBron's not washed. LeBron was injured and he was strained. LeBron's never gonna be Jordan.
Yeah.
That's just is, but like Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is not going to tarnish LeBron's career as much as people think it will be.
I don't think it will either.
Than
And
him taking his talents to the Toon Squad this summer.
that was that was
That was corny.
yeah, that was corny, especially after losing a playoff series. I was like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I was looking at with the whole LeBron loss, and I was kind of taking this to heart. Uh, you know, trying to think about it, but it was the fact that he goes down like this, and I saw people on Twitter saying like the Heat and the Lakers go out in the first round, and people didn't realize somebody had the smarts to say, yeah, and they had only 71 days to get ready between this next season, while guys that have been out of the playoffs since March. There were teams that when the season shut down in March, they didn't play again until December. They had like a full like 7 month vacation, like the guys that on the teams that suck. Now again, did that really impact them? No, probably not that much because their teams weren't that good anyways. But the Celtics,
Like the Suns. Suns had that whole break.
yeah, the Suns had a pretty solid break, even though they were in the bubble. But and the Lakers had like they barely had any time to really get back into it. So it was a grind for them, and I think that definitely had an effect. I think that the Lakers this year kind of just treated the treated the 72 game regular season rather kind of just as a exhibition, and just say like, all right, doesn't matter where we're seated, we're going to be able to go in the playoffs and do just fine.
Yeah, I agree also because like they kind of it seemed like half-assed kind of the season,
Yeah, they did.
honestly.
But granted, you have LeBron and AD. It should be like it's almost kind of like the Patriots going into the playoffs, just being like, oh, first seed, second seed doesn't matter. We have Brady and we have Gronk and we have all those guys, and we should be fine. But that became its own thing.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's just I don't know. It's very interesting. Who you got winning the finals this year?
Honestly, it's a very tough decision for me now. I think you got to go with the Nets just because out of pure talent. I mean,
I agree.
they're playing ridiculous
They're
right now.
playing out of their mind.
I mean, you were talking about earlier
James
about
Harden's out, but
Harden's out, but you still got Kyrie, KD,
I know.
Blake. You got all those guys. You were talking
And
about
Chris Middleton right now cannot shoot to save his life. So.
yeah. You were telling me about Blake before the program, about how he puts on a Nets uniform and how he actually wants to play basketball again.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
He dunked on Giannis.
He dunked on Giannis, and then KD crossed Giannis, and then Kyrie also crossed Giannis.
Yeah, so
he's having a rough night.
So I think they're having their way with him. I think out of the Western Conference, I'd like to see the Utah Jazz make it to the finals. I like Donovan Mitchell.
I think that's a far stretch, but I think they will. I think Denver's going to win that.
Denver, I would give them a lot of credit too, just because of what they have. I mean, Jamal Murray's out though, so that
is tough. But Michael Porter Jr., my boy, picking it up finally.
Yeah,
listen, took him like 5 years to finally figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I love myself some Donovan Mitchell. I think he's an outstanding player. So I'd like to see him finally get some of the recognition that he deserves, and that would be great. I'd like to see what the Phoenix Suns can do in the West. See if they. I mean, I don't think they have enough in them to make a finals run, but make a deep run in the playoffs. Definitely is putting some respect on Phoenix's name, which for the past couple of years had completely left the desert.
Man.
Devin Booker's legit.
He's good. Yeah, he's been legit, but he's good. Yeah, he's solid. He definitely deserved many All-Star votes, but he's been solid and he's been consistent, which is the biggest thing in this league. So
yeah, I mean, if the Nets didn't exist, this would actually be a really interesting playoffs because it would be like I literally have no idea who was going to make it. Now the Nets could fall apart, and this could be like this could be just like a super team failure, and but I really have my doubts with that just because of how stacked they are. And
they're deep too.
Because outside of the big three, you still got Joe Harris, who's a walking bucket and can knock down like threes at large, and he's one of the better 3-point shooters in the league. They're stacked all around, and outside of the big three, it's ridiculous. So I mean, I think that it's definitely going to be I think it's definitely going to be the Nets out of the East, regardless of how that goes. But I am excited to see this thing through.
I agree.
And I think with that concludes our NBA segment. So that moves us into our final segment of the night, which is the NFL. Some big news going on there, which we had no knowledge of it when it went down. But obviously, Julio Jones had been in possible trade talks to the New England Patriots and to the Tennessee Titans. There had been some moves going on there, and it believes that, and we believe, and it looks now that
it's official.
It is official. All right,
official today.
I wanted to make sure. So Julio Jones is going to the Tennessee Titans. He's going to be pairing up with AJ Brown, catching passes from Ryan Tannehill. And man, what a move! They got him for a second and a fourth.
Next year, second, year after that, fourth, and they gave up Julio and what was it? 6 next year.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very big move, especially when arguably the best wide receiver in football like gets on the move and really just requested a trade, kind of seeming like out of nowhere. But yeah, it's definitely interesting because you look at Ryan Tannehill's stats. They're comparing him to Patrick Mahomes, and he has a better QBR
Yeah,
than
I mean,
Patrick Mahomes.
ever since he's gotten to Tennessee, he's completely turned himself around as a quarterback. It's one of the greatest, resurrections I think I've ever seen in the sport. Because you saw him in Miami, and he was a dumpster fire in Miami. He was
You also
awful as
take
a.
a look at who is his head coach.
I
Like he
mean,
had Adam Gase.
listen, I'm not saying anything about that, and but like I
It
saw.
makes you wonder, though. You think like Sam Darnold in Carolina, because like you see how good Ryan Tannehill has been. Like you
It's
take a look.
he could be a stud in Carolina. That's actually something I really want to take. I really want to watch this season. But I was seeing Ryan Tannehill as a guy, and I remember like I remember Miami fans saying he's going to lead us to the promise, and I'm seeing this guy in the field. I'm just like this
Injury
guy's
prone too, yeah.
that was a big thing too. I was like maybe he would have had it in him, but injuries. But then goes to the Tennessee Titans, goes there as a backup behind Marcus Mariota. Mariota kind of earned his way out of the job. Tannehill comes in, plays amazing, and has just been a staple of the
Yeah,
franchise
got
ever
signed
since.
4 years, 100 something mil. Good for him,
It's
man.
insane. I'm actually really glad for him. For what he did and to turn his time as turn his player tenure around. Good for him, man. I thought he was going one way as a player. I thought he was going to be like a Geno Smith era like level kind of bust kind of guy, and that was going to be it for him. But he's a legit quarterback. It's one of the the redemption stories that I don't think is talked about enough in the NFL.
Yeah. What do you think about that division, though? They're going to be playing Indy
Yeah.
twice a year. Indy has a solid defense. Indy's all around good team if Carson Wentz figures out what they're going to do. What do you think about that division now? Who's really going to lead it?
Well, I mean, I think it's got to be. I think you got to go with Tennessee from the jump. But Indy, I mean, maybe Carson Wentz is in a similar situation to what Ryan Tannehill is
I
in.
think
I
the
mean,
Eagles are in that division too, right?
the Eagles are in it as well. No, Eagles are NFC East.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, it's Jags in that division.
Yeah, Jags.
Yeah,
Don't even
Jags,
worry about that.
Texans.
They're still in rebuilding mode. Whoever cares.
Yeah, no, they're not going for it. They're not going for it this year. But, I think, I mean, depending on how Carson Wentz does it, it could be really, it could, really be all up in the air. But, and maybe Carson Wentz has the kind of, maybe kind of has the type of surge that, and kind of redemption that, Tannehill had when he came here. Maybe, a lot of the problems that he was having, that happened after his MVP season are just a result of the coaching and the situation he was in. Maybe he is able to come back and be a really good guy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly, I can't wait to see how he does, especially since he's with his former QB coach
Yeah,
as a head coach. So I mean,
that could definitely be great for him. I think just getting him back getting him I think this is the fresh start that Carson Wentz needs, and maybe he can get back and we can see some of the Carson Wentz that we
yeah.
used to be used to.
I mean, the Julio Jones trade though. Wow, like honestly, like
It's remarkable.
he's 32, so he's on the end of his career, which is sad to see as a longtime Alabama fan. I followed him all the way through. I got his jersey and everything from the Falcons.
I remember you got his jersey with the Falcons. I remember 8th grade science. I had you take it's actually my profile picture of you, my contact photo of you to this day. I will pull that up. Yeah, it's my contact photo of you to this day.
Yeah.
And you're wearing a Julio Jones jersey, and I have to find this picture now. You're making me think a little bit. But man, you were in a Julio Jones jersey. You were like taking a picture in front of a whiteboard, and it was like the study selfie picture that you took. I'm gonna have to do some research in finding this thing. But man, that was a funny freaking picture when you did that thing.
I mean, yeah, but Julio definitely leaving. You look at the other people who have done it before. Terrell Owens, he did it with the Eagles when he was 30, made all pro, and then Randy Moss with the Patriots.
That's what I was kind of thinking about this thing with.
So
This could
honestly, I'm really excited. I think he still has a lot left in the tank, clearly, and he's gonna thrive and do great. I'm just wondering how he's gonna share catches. But did they say that he's changing his number or?
I mean, he's probably gonna have to because AJ Brown has 11.
AJ Brown, I thought said since it worked, he's gonna give up his number.
Is he actually?
He'll give it up. He'll wear 8, and Julio will wear 11.
Really?
I believe so. I could be wrong, but
okay, that would be pretty big then if he was to actually give it up and do that.
yeah, I mean, it would be definitely very interesting. But apparently, with the there's rumors going around that as soon as they started talking about who's paying off the salary of Julio, and Julio has a massive salary, the Patriots kind of walked out. So how do you feel about that? After them being in the hunt, apparently they were like in the hunt that same day, the same morning they were talking. So
Yeah, I'm definitely discouraged about it because I think that for the Patriots, you
that
spent
could have been the final piece, honestly.
that really could have been. We
Legit wide
we
receiver
made
one.
we made some great moves this offseason. Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Nelson Aguilar. We made great moves this offseason. I
Mac
can't
Jones.
Yeah, Mac Jones in the draft. I can't doubt that. I mean, we have some other guys too, which I can't wait to see. Ramondre Stevenson. I finally said his name right on this show. He could be a nice power running back that we see out of Oklahoma down the line. But I the one thing that we were missing was a solid number one receiver. A guy like Kendrick Bourne, he might take over the Edelman role of being the slot guy. Nelson Aguilar, he's probably going to be more of a deep threat. But in terms of having a dominant wide receiver, we don't necessarily have that. And maybe we don't need it
Yeah, maybe
because
the
of Henry.
system. Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree because definitely the system looks like they're going to be running a two tight end system with play action just to shoot it deep.
yeah, it's going to be kind of. I
It's a
mean,
run based. It's a run based team.
yeah, it's a run based team, and I think you look at the Patriots. Obviously you had Randy Moss, but outside of him, you weren't really working with too many bigger guys. It was guys like Wes Welker,
I
Julian
guess
Edelman.
after after Gronk, it was Edelman, and then yeah,
Well, I'm talking about like big wide receiver kind of weapon.
yeah, exactly. So
So I mean, it's
it's kind
definitely
of hard.
yeah, it's hard, and maybe Bill just wants to stick with the system, and if he believes he can work with it,
I believe it can work with it.
I believe he can work with it because you know what, last year didn't exist. Last year was a COVID year. No one was in the stands, so
Hey,
so it didn't happen.
you look if you really want to see good coaching, you look at the Week 15 defense for the New England Patriots and name one single player on that defense. I'm not even joking. Everyone was out, and we somehow did good.
Yeah,
It's wild still to this day. I mean, any other team coaching that team, God,
gets
yeah,
absolutely obliterated.
they go 1-5. Bill
Yeah,
Belichick somehow almost made us 500.
yeah.
So
It's remarkable what Bill was able to do for us. But the final thing on the final topic of the show tonight is the USFL. I don't know if you remember those guys. They were a big springtime football league back in the early days of like the 1980s. So they were a league started by a bunch of owners. They used to compete against the NFL, kind of for maybe for some football attention and also for some football stars. Had guys like Reggie White, Jim Kelly, I believe. Trying to think of some other guys that were with them, but they had some really solid. They had some. Steve Young was another guy that was with the USFL. They were able to get some really solid guys. Their first in their years of existence. I think they only lasted like maybe 3 to 6 years. It wasn't too long. But in terms of, you think of spring football leagues and successful ones at that, the USFL for some reason is still remarked as like the thing like that could have survived. And it was likely that they were maybe going to try a merger with the NFL. Eventually the whole thing fell apart. And you look at other leagues that have started up since. You look at the AAF, which was a complete flop. You look at the XFL the first time, which only lasted a season. You saw it most recently, which actually was pretty promising, but then COVID kind of ruined it. It's going to come back in 2022. But the USFL is also going to look to come back in 2022, which I'm pretty interested to see. I think they're only going to do 8 teams. They're going to try to keep some of the original team names. So it's going to be like I think it's like the Memphis Express, like there's like different teams like no, it's the Memphis Showboats, the LA Express, or teams like that used to be around. So, getting another springtime football league and having it compete against the XFL, what are your thoughts on it?
it's gonna flop, I think.
I think so because
I think you can't really compete with the NFL
it's a
due to marketing and the size and the amount of people that watch it and then also watch other sports. I mean, you look at like the XFL, and sure that was promising and the opening week was great and everything else, but I just still don't think it's going to work out. I
yeah.
mean, people have tried and failed, and there's a reason this isn't around right now and the NFL is.
Yeah, here's the thing though. I think there is a market for springtime football. I think that, and no, I think there are people that probably do have that fix. That if there was a solid product on the field, they would watch it. Now, I think the marketing for many of these leagues has been awful. You think of the fan-controlled football league, which started up where like fans were like calling the plays. Now, was it an interesting prospect? Yes. Did I think it was ever going to last beyond one season? Hell no. That thing. It seems like a cool idea that maybe you do for like a cool little gift like not a gift, but like a kind of like a little gag, and it's like, oh, the fans control the plays this time, but that never seemed like something to me that would last and be as promising as like an arena football league, which actually had a great run and still does in some areas.
Still does
Arena,
run, yeah.
yeah, arena football is actually pretty fun because kind of combines football with hockey with the way the
Exactly.
that's actually a pretty interesting sport, but that even ended up folding after like I think like 25 years or so. So you know, you got to find a way to do the marketing right. You think of the way I remember how the AAF marketed themselves, and I remember it just happened. Like I think it was like during the NFL playoffs. I just see it's like a white screen that just says the Alliance coming, coming after the Super Bowl, and I had no idea what the Alliance was. I thought it was like maybe something for like the military, something like that, and like I didn't realize like a football league was starting until like the Super Bowl. I was like, there's a football league. That's what the AAF is. I thought it was like some sort of like a military like insurance benefit. I had no idea what the thing was. It was beyond me. I was like, what the hell is this? And then the XFL coming back, I was like, oh shoot, like maybe you can get to see some old guys like Johnny Manziel and Josh Gordon. Boom. No, apparently the commissioner of the league who's the WWE guy.
Vince, what's his
Vince
name?
McMahon. I'm an idiot. Vince McMahon comes out and says we're not gonna have any players who've ever done marijuana in the league. I was like, well, that ruins their odds. Now I don't know what the USFL is gonna do. Now I mean to see Johnny Manziel and Josh Gordon maybe play football again, that'd be kind of fun for a little bit
I
to
think
see.
Manziel said on his most recent podcast that he's done.
I think he is done, but with him, I think if you give him the right opportunity, I feel like
I
he'd
think you
jump
give him
at
the
it.
right opportunity and the right amount of money, he'll do anything.
He'll do anything. That's what I'm thinking too. And I think Josh Gordon. I still feel like he wants to play. I mean, I think there are plenty of guys out of the league right now. I know Percy Harvin was trying to maybe make an NFL comeback, and maybe this is a way he wants to maybe get back into football. There are plenty of avenues for those guys to go down. Now, it's tough because I think they need a good marketing strategy, and they haven't had one for forever. I mean, it looks like the XFL was maybe going to be able to survive, and maybe The Rock does a good job this time. But you need a good marketing strategy because the NFL is always going to have you beat in that, and they're always going to be beaten talent. And the only other competing thing is college, which also goes in the fall. But those markets don't really compete with each other because it's like, listen, one is feeding the other, and they
Exactly.
know how that works. So I mean, I didn't really watch the FCS playoffs, but having that in the springtime honestly was kind of interesting to see because
You're also competing with the Canadian Football League too.
that as well. I know it isn't as big in the US, but up in Canada, obviously, it's huge up there. Like you think of the Toronto Argonauts and different teams like that competing for the Grey Cup has a lot of promise up there. So, it's definitely going to take a lot of work if you ever want to get a spring football league to work. But I think that there definitely is a market for it, and I think that I feel like I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this works. If it fails, it fails, and it's not my money I'm spending on it.
Exactly. At the end of the day, they're just out there trying to have fun and try to make the best opportunities for them in their careers. So
Yeah, it's not my $1 billion idea. So go nuts, try to entertain us, and I'll have fun with it. But with that being said, I think it is officially time to say that we are now down to the wire, which means we're going to go through everything we talked about in this program and send you guys off. So obviously, if you guys are able to hear on the podcast the sounds of nature, it's because we are again outside of my house, wanted to get out and enjoy the weather. Pretty calm night. Luckily, it's not raining right now, so
yeah, no, it is a nice 89 degrees out.
right now is it 89?
It might be. You should probably check.
I'm gonna check that. No, it's
79.
okay. Yeah, I'm about to say like if it's 89 degrees, this is the coolest 89 degrees I've ever felt in my life.
Yeah. We talked about the Bruins.
Ended up actually managing to make a little bit of a comeback, but did lose 5-4 in that game. Tuukka Rask did get taken out of the game, and the kid Swayman did get put in at goal. So
Bruins in 7.
it's got to be Bruins in 7 now.
Bruins in 7,
It's
baby.
do or die. And from there, we ended up talking about the Floyd Mayweather Logan Paul bout. We talked about Ochocinco taking on Brian Maxwell, the former MMA guy who's 0-3 in boxing in that fight. Technically has a victory now, even though there were no judges in the fight. That was another thing we kind of forgot to mention. There were no judges in this fight. The only way you're going to have a true winner of the fight was had there been a pure knockout, and it's like, all right, that's just the undisputed answer. But the reason that once it went all 8 rounds in the Logan Paul fight, it just ended. There was no decision. There were no judges, and it was kind of just for bragging rights. And you knew that going in, that people still paid money for it.
People wanted to see them fight, and Logan Paul and the Paul brothers, I guess, they're doing stuff that well, the producers and the
Promoters.
promoters, they got to kind of get on it. It looks like you
I
talk
mean,
to them about it.
I mean, if it lights a fire under their ass and it kind of gets them going, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So I'm all for that. We then proceeded to talk about Jake Paul taking on Tyron Woodley on August 28th and how that will be how that will impact his fighting legacy. We then jumped over to NBA and talked about the Celtics blowing up their front office and with Brad Stevens now going into the president of basketball ops, Danny Ainge retiring.
Transitioning a couple roles there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Danny Ainge is going out for health, but kind of a quick question: do you think he'll be back in basketball, or do you think that he's actually done? Because I guess some people are linking him possibly to the Utah Jazz because he bought some property out there. Do you think he might explore that?
I mean, yes and no. I think if anything, he goes to the Suns where he has roots there. But if not, I mean, he had a great career, and if he does still continue to go on, I mean, still, all good luck towards him.
Yeah, I mean, Danny Ainge did amazing things for this organization. I hope, frankly, for his sake. I know he had a heart attack back in 2019. I think for his sake, it'd be best for him to hang it up and just kind of go out. You're going out with the Celtics. You're going out with the organization that I think favored you the most. I think it's the best I think it's the best thing to do to go out here. We talked about possible coaching, possible coaches who could come over and take the reins from Brad Stevens and try to lead this Celtics team to the to banner 18. We talked about Coach K retiring from Duke basketball, as well as LeBron and the Lakers falling to the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs in the first round.
Tough.
And in NFL news, we talked about Julio Jones to the Tennessee Titans, and the reports that the USFL will reportedly make a comeback in 2022, and what that means as a potential thing for spring football. Very very good show today. I was really happy to talk about these things. And John, I'm hopeful that we're able to get you on more episodes this summer.
I know. Stay tuned, guys. Some big things coming along, and
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Sox swept, so who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Sox swept.
But yeah, it is. Obviously, it doesn't matter for you guys because this isn't live, but it's currently 9:40 p.m. on a Monday night here. So from Down to the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm John Warren, and that strike through was legit.
We'll see you guys next time.